Hello and welcome to South Bay Sports Radio. Here's your host, Nick Ingram.
All right, Coach Don Morrow, Mira Costa High School. Coach, Inglewood is up next on your schedule. How tough have they been over the last couple of years in regard to not only the talent, but the athleticism and the physicality that they possess?
Yeah, no, they've been tremendous for several years in a row now. I remember them. Hassan Longstreet, was their quarterback for a minute, and they just had some great players. Looking at their schedule, they could really easily be 5-2. Their losses are to some of the best teams in California, and losing their Los Alamitos, etc. Yes, it's going to be a tough task for us, Nick. I'm sure.
What's going to be the key to not only making it a game, but pulling out a victory, like I said, against a tough Inglewood team?
Oh, there's a bunch of them. They have two really dynamic guys up front, so we've got to somehow try to get them under control as much as we can when we have the ball. And then, the usual stuff, obviously, taking care of the ball, which we've been doing a good job on. But hopefully we can take care of the ball and kind of minimize our number of penalties. We've been doing a good job in both those areas. Our kicking game has been sound. So, I think winning the kicking game is probably going to be a big deal. And then just finding some kind of way to corral all that speed. They got tremendous speed.
You've been at Mira Costa for a very long time. From last I read, you're approaching a win total that hasn't been met in a very long time. Talk about the kind of teams, the kind of players that you've had throughout your years at Mira Costa.
Wonderful players and wonderful teams. I think, just consistent kids, and the continuity, I think, on the staff has been a really key. But I tell all my friends, forever, my job was to wake up in the morning and go teach 4 sections of chemistry where you had super motivated kids who wanted to succeed and work hard. And then, we'd go have lunch, and then in the afternoon, you have the same thing in the football realm. So I think that's what I'll always remember is just the consistency and hardworking, dedicated. And then I think this year's group, has a unique brotherhood about them too. I think that's kind of special about them.
When you first got into coaching, did you anticipate that you'd still be coaching in 2025?
I haven't really given it much thought, Nick. I tell everybody the only thing I look at that I wish I would have maybe been able to sample a little bit. And of course, too late now and everything. And it was too late once our kids started coming along. But I've always loved the college game, just the competitiveness of it and the greatness of it, the pageantry of it. So, two of and a bunch of my friends, had coached at that level and experienced all that. So to have experienced all that would have been real cool. But no regrets. We had great teams at Redondo when I was there. Great kids. Same thing at South Torrance. The South Torrance kids. This was my recollection. This was 89 through 92. But they were a whole lot like the Costa kids are currently, which I think maybe that's another part of it, right? That's made it easy to stay in the game is obviously things have changed societally and everything else, but the core stuff for a high school football kid, I think, has remained pretty much the same.
Coach, when you finally do decide to step away, what's going to be one of the things that you look back on as some of your proudest moments?
Well, we were fortunate enough to win those 3 CIF titles. I tell everybody those things are really super hard to come by. And so that's pretty cool. I think also the fact that able to coach my 3 sons, our 3 sons all went through there. That's obviously pretty amazing. And then we've lost in the finals 6 times. So sometimes you dwell on, coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? And so I think that's something I think about a lot too.
9 times in the finals.
Trying to get back, Nick. I tell the kids, you'll appreciate this, I think. It just happens. You look up and all of a sudden it's week 14 and you're there. And of course, everybody wants to be there, right? That's what we all want to be league champions and get to the CIF finals and da. And all of a sudden you look up and you're just there. So put the work in daily, week by week, and you never know. Sometimes we get lucky.
But it's not always about luck. It's about building a foundation. You know just as well as anybody that you're not able to just win now with bringing in kids and finding ways that things work in weird ways. But how important is it to you to drill the fundamentals and to build that foundation?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the community foundation, we do an annual breakfast, and we just did that on Saturday. And of course, all kinds of booster club members and former players and da da da, coming back. And it's really, for the most part, just been a neighborhood school. For the most part, I think that part of it is something that we're proud of. The fact that we were able to do it in the beach community there. But yeah, again, I think, don't you think? I think it just gets back to the consistency and the continuity. And Ray Lee, our defensive coordinator, has been coaching with me every single year.
Coach, you've been at Mira Costa for a while now. Who have been some of your mentors as far as the coaching aspect is concerned?
Well, Joe Austin had great success at South before we got there back in the day. And then I've coached alongside all kinds of folks at Costa. Believe it or not, we went to aviation, right? And so our longtime defensive coordinator at aviation was this fella named Larry Petrel. Well, right before we got to Mira Costa, he had been the head coach for a couple of years there. And I think he laid a really significant foundation. This is, like 90, 91 right in there. So I think he deserves a lot of credit that maybe he's never got. Chuck Arrowsmith was with us forever and kind of a legendary O-line coach over there. Really always had high quality offensive line play, which allowed us to really, we were predominantly a running team when we started out. And we could really pound the ball, back in the day. But he was tremendous. I got to work with Steve Butler, who had been, he came and coached us. I don't know, this would have been around 2008, 2009, kind of in that area, maybe earlier the years. But Steve had been the head coach at Valley College. He had been the head coach at Crespi. And so he had tremendous knowledge. One of his best friends was Terry Donahue, who was the UCLA coach forever. And so that was pretty cool. And I could go on and on. Did you know that Norm Chow worked with us for a couple of years?
I do remember that.
His son, Cameron, was an English teacher at the school and also an assistant, in our program. So Norm would come help us, and that, pick his brain. Obviously, he's one of the all-timers, offensive geniuses. Bill Cooper, who's a former coach, a head coach at Mira Costa. I think he won their first league title in like 1971 or something like this. At any rate, he joined our staff, and he had coached all over the place, including he's the linebackers coach at Cal when you have the Cal versus Stanford band craziness that occurs that day.
The John Elway game.
Yeah. And so Kevin, his son, was our quarterback for a couple of years. And Bill ran our booster club during Kevin's time. And then after Kevin got done, we said, hey, why don't you come help us out with the linebacker? So he was tremendous. So on and on, Nick. I always hate doing this kind of thing because you're going to forget somebody, right? But yeah.
You mentioned a lot of different coaches. There is one that I want to bring up because it's been your week 10 game the last couple of years. Week 10, Palos Verdes. How big of a match is that with this rivalry that's kind of been built over the last 5, 10, 15 years?
Well, they've kind of owned it for a while now. We've been close the last few years, and we've been close many times, but it's been a while since we beat him. And he's a Mira Costa grad. He played quarterback at Mira Costa, talking about Guy, and he was on our staff forever. That fella, Larry Petrel, that I mentioned a moment ago, he had coached with him as well as a young coach. So, when you see these young guys that you're working with, you know they're going to be great head coaches and everything. And even before he got to PV, he had a lot of success down in Orange County at Garden Grove Pacifica, and then also before that at a little high school called La Quinta. He had done a really good job. That was his first job, and he had done a really good job down there at La Quinta. So he's tremendous, and obviously the proof is his record at PV.
There we go. Mira Costa coach Don Morrow, thank you for joining me, sir. I appreciate you very much. I look forward to seeing you always.